Hi friends, in our time together today, I'm introducing Scarborough Fair for us to play on our low and high D whistles. I'm working my way through the list of tunes that I've wanted to introduce, combined with the list of tunes you all have asked me to introduce. And again, if you've got more tunes that you want us to do, stick a note in the comments, and sometimes I just randomly grab one of them and do that. And I might come up with one of the tunes from my list or one of the tunes from yours. It's a lot of fun. So please, I'd really love to hear from you some other tunes you're interested in us playing together and learning. We'll follow our usual format. I'll put a link at the top of the notes to this video so that you could access the page on my website from which to download the music and tabs for this particular tune. I'll walk us through the tune standing so you can see my hands. We'll talk about any challenges I think you might experience, ornamentation and expression, and then some of the history of the tune, which is pretty interesting on this one. So here's the tune, and I did transcribe it so that we could play it on our whistles in D, and you can find it in the key of D in some places. So, but I figured if I make that available to you, it's a lot easier. So here it is, Scarborough Fair. Alrighty, it's really quite straightforward, and I think you'll find it delightful to play. Now, one of the reasons this is a great tune, it's not outside of the range of a beginner to play, and it provides opportunity to throw in some complexities that those who are at least intermediate players will appreciate as well. I think the biggest challenge with this tune is bringing yourself to the point where you feel like you could play it so that it sounds like it's flowing and it sounds emoting. I know that's spilling straight into the ornamentation and expression, but that's the challenge with this one. You're not really going to have a trouble. You're go no higher than the second octave E, and you do have to sit on the D a little bit. It's not really challenging. It's not a rapid tune. So like from an ornamentation standpoint, you've got some repeated notes, but remember, this is a flowing tune. So you don't want to do just some really hard ornaments as you play those, like that opening two measures. How do you want to do that? Something that differentiates between the two E's and the two B's, but doesn't break that gentleness of the tune. Now the expression, I think, is the key here, because you've got some sections where I think you could build from a volume standpoint, some where you could draw back and play a little less, work on, experiment with different places to breathe and see what really sounds good to you and creates a mood. Decide a mood you want to create. Again, listen to different people playing the tune, and from that, think about the mood you want to convey as you're playing. And then that is how you're going to learn some of the expression. You're going to take the tune, you're going to marry some of your gentle ornamentation with it. Maybe even throw in a little vibrato and some slides. But how are you going to express this from an emotional standpoint as well? All right. Let's think now a little about the history of the tune, which is pretty interesting. As I was listening to the tune, trying to think through, some history and listening to the lyrics of Scarborough Fair, hearing this as a ballad, thinking I would find some of the roots of the tune there. And then I started studying some of the history. And by the way, just go to YouTube and type in something like history of the tune Scarborough Fair. And you'll get some videos that go way back and talk about everybody who's played it and the history of it. And it's kind of fun. But reading about it, a lot of folks say that this is a pretty old tune, and it is a variation, or it came out of a tune from the Middle Ages called the Elfin Knight. Sounds like a name of a Tolkien short story, doesn't it? I've listened to the Elfin Knight, and I could see what they're saying, but I don't know. I could also see it, the Scarborough Fair, standing on its own. The assumption is that the tune Scarborough Fair was composed or massaged from an older tune to speak of the ancient fair that always took place in Scarborough for hundreds of years in England. And there are different sets of lyrics, and a lot of the lyrics are lovers speaking to each other and asking each other to do things that are really kind of outrageous in a way, almost impossible, as it were. The tune was actually a little unknown, but popular, I should say, in some circles before Simon and Garfunkel released it in 1966. I actually thought, there are a lot of old folk tunes that when you hear them sung by some of those groups that made folk tunes famous, you're listening to them and you think, well, they must have written that. And the answer is no, they took a folk tune from the public domain that they learned from somebody, and they made it popular, and you fell in love with their version of it. And that's what this is. The English musician Martin Carthy knew the tune Scarborough Fair, and he is very gifted, and he crafted a version that most of us know today. Carthy shared this version with Paul Simon. Simon and Garfunkel took the tune and popularized it. And Carthy was really upset about that because they never said, oh, we got this from our new friend Martin Carthy. But according to Paul Simon in a later interview, he assumed that, he said, well, I didn't realize I should have done that, but also we were paying rights to this tune. It turns out, if the history I read is correct, that Martin Carthy's producer, say that 5 times fast, had in his contract with Carthy that he actually owned the rights to some of the tunes. So apparently, if what I read is correct, Simon and Garfunkel were paying royalties to Carthy's producer, and Carthy didn't know anything about it because he'd signed the contract and his producer was ripping him off. That's terrible. Anyway, but in 1966, funny, Simon and Garfunkel released their version in 1966. Martin Carthy released his version in, you guessed it, 1966. He didn't write the tune either, as I said. He's just massaging an old folk tune. So I'm actually going to put a link to Carthy to a video that somebody posted of Carthy's version in the notes to this video, so that you could hear that. It's a lovely version. So it's kind of fun. It gives you a chance to hear his version before Simon and Garfunkel, and it's similar but a little different. It's very fun. So a tune with very old roots that then at some point was massaged to become Scarborough Fair, that was massaged again to become the tune we know with the lyrics we know, or maybe the lyrics go back to when Scarborough Fair was created. We don't really know for sure, because there are a few different sets, or the most popular sets of lyrics. But it's a great tune for us to know. I'd love for you to learn it, because I want us to dive into experimenting with the beautiful expression we can get from playing Scarborough Fair. So until next time, my friends, this is Scott Shade. Happy low D whistling.